Hello everyone, welcome back to Valley of the Mist Quilt Guild's Block of the Month. I'm Adriane Ritter.
And I'm Shelley McNeely.
And we are back to do our July block. I have named this one the Ocean Block because it's wavy, it's full of waves. That's what I said, it's full of waves. Okay, so these blocks are not due until September if you're going to turn one in for the drawing at the guild meeting. What else was I going to say right now? Oh, we do need to talk about the fabric you use, but like every month, how I mentioned, these fabrics are the requirements if you're doing this for the guild.
Right.
Okay, if you're going to turn it in to do for the guild. If you're doing them for yourself, use whatever you like. Right. We just suggest that as you're making your block of the month for the year, to pick a fabric like this focus fabric. Something to unify the quilt as you make each different block. Right. So our fabric requirements this year are what, Shelley?
Okay, the focus fabric is Modern Movement by Henry Glass. Then we have a coordinating fabric, which is any matching fabric in the focus fabric, a gray and a white.
And these should be fairly plain fabrics. They don't have to be solids, but they should read kind of solid.
Right, read that color.
Yeah. I mean, I personally like them to all have a little bit of something in them.
Right.
But yeah, they look pretty solid.
Right.
And Shelley's actually going to show a block that she has done some work on. It isn't finished yet, but that'll be later on. And hers are blue, mine are blue. Blue is not required. It just happens to be what we like.
It's true.
And actually this year, all my blocks are I'm trying to use these 3 fabrics and those 4 fabrics for the whole year.
Right.
So mine have been looking the same every month. But that's entirely up to you, whether you want to change out your coordinating fabric with each different block or how you want to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do we need? What fabric requirements do we have other than the colors?
Okay, we need lots of strips that are between 1 inch and 3 inches and 13.5 inches long. And really, you just keep adding them together until you get a block that's 12.5 inches wide. So it's hard. Yeah. We aren't defining how many of each color you need. It's kind of up to you, except you start with one piece of focus fabric that's 13.5 inches long by however wide you want.
Right. So we're trying to make it so you don't use too much focus fabric in each block, because it is just supposed to be a unifying fabric, not the main fabric of the blocks.
Right.
So I wouldn't use a giant piece, or you're going to run out of your focus fabric.
Right. But don't go less than 1 inch, mainly because you lose too much in your seams.
Yeah. Because in this block, while you don't have to do a 1/4 inch seam, if you do too much off of that, then the waves the curves you've cut in your fabric will kind of disappear.
Right.
So I want to show you. So I'm going to put this block down. That's a finished block.
Or do you want to show how you?
Well, I'm going to show some of. So for my block, this is kind of a sample of how I cut the pieces, and I have of the different pieces, I have different widths. I have the curves, as you can see, like on this right here, the curves kind of match here, but then they oppose here. So and that's fine. It doesn't matter, because what you're going to do is you're going to put these two. Say I'm putting these 2 pieces together. I am going to this edge will go against my guide on my pressure foot for my seam, and I'm going to use this bottom piece as my guide, and this top piece, as I sew, I'm going to move it along this curve gently. I don't want to stretch it out, but it's fabric, it moves, it bends, and I'm going to just gently turn it and make it go. So it's actually, whatever curve I have on the other side, it's going to make it even more pronounced, or I guess in some ways it could straighten it out too, depending on how it goes. But it doesn't matter, because there's no way it's going to come up straight. You could even start with with, like on this piece, with one side of it without a curve, and by the time you match it up to the other piece of fabric, it will have a curve in it.
As long as it has a curve in it too, yeah.
Right. I think Shelley actually, on her block that she made, she only cut a curve on one side.
Well, on some of them.
On some of them,
yeah.
Okay. Because we told you, use scraps. Save your scraps. We're using scraps on this one. They just have to be the 13.5 inches long to allow you to lose some length as we move those curves.
We want to make sure you end up with enough when you go to square it up.
Right. So Shelley has a piece of fabric sitting next to her, and she is going to demonstrate to you how to do this free cutting, because I get very nervous thinking I'm telling you people to cut without using a ruler to kind of protect your fingers.
And she wants to see if I can cut my fingers.
No, I don't.
That's why I'm doing it instead of her.
So she on this one, she already has a curve on the one side.
Yes.
And so she's going to cut along the other side.
And see, yeah.
So she's keeping her fingers away from the blade,
right.
But she's holding it so it doesn't kind of get away from her.
Right, and slow. You don't need to cut fast. To cut slow. At some point, the fabric might try to move on you, but I just kind of grab the piece I've cut off and kind of hold it in place. And
you might even pause like now and go closer to where you're cutting, right? To hold it down.
Right, because I'm trying to see how I cut that off, but it
that's
doesn't
fine.
matter.
That's
it doesn't
fine.
matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Just keep going so you get, and
if that's
gentle,
easier for you to cut out little,
right.
little half moon kind of pieces,
yeah.
not that big, not half moon, but little sliver pieces out to make your curves, that's fine.
As you can see, the pieces I've cut are well, hopefully cut. It's mostly cut. Are just gentle because it's easier to sew together if they aren't big curves. You'll find, I'm sure a lot of people don't want to do blocks that are curvy anyway, so
right.
little curves are easier.
Yeah, this is kind of our gentle introduction to teach people that don't like sewing curves that they're really actually very easy to sew, because it's, you're not working with concrete. We're working with fabric. It moves, and the other thing to remember is you want, when you're pressing, you're going to press to the dark, I want you to use a lot of steam, because when you press it, you have to make sure that you're actually pressing the seam and not just pressing like what it wants, because sometimes you kind of have to pull it a little to open it.
You need to hold that up so I can see that better.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of how to describe that.
The other side, or does it really matter?
Yeah. Well,
it's hard to say
to see, yeah, because sometimes if it's too big if it's a big curve and you don't really open it, push that over, a tendency is for it to kind of swallow up.
Right, the seam doesn't go actually where you sewed it.
And so you do want to press after each strip you put on. Don't wait and press at the end. Right. You can't get them to cooperate then.
Right, and you might not be able to tell on her block here, but it doesn't look super smooth, but once you quilt it, it's still going to be good.
Right, yeah. Oh yeah. So we are going to, I'm going to go and sew a few pieces together. How the order that you place the strips is entirely up to you. I am going to start with my focus fabric because I know I need the one piece of that.
Right.
Come on. Okay, and I'm going to sew something to that. But the look of it is up to you, how many pieces you use of each fabric and the order of the strips, how wide, all of that. So I'm going to sew a few pieces on and then we'll be back. All right, so now I have sewn on the piece on either side of the focus fabric. When I'm making my blocks, I want them all to definitely look different. And so if I was making this for myself, I would be thinking about how I'm placing the fabric. So in this case, I made sure on this first one, I did coordinating fabric and a white on either side of the focus fabric. So I just did something different. Right. You can see when I sewed these actually had quite decent curves to them. Right. And in this case, it kind of took this seam doesn't look, either seam looks super curvy, but we'll see. I mean, it kind of comes and goes.
Right.
As you sew on the next curve, it kind of distorts the fabric differently.
And if one of them doesn't look as curvy, it doesn't matter.
Right. I mean, like on this one, this seam doesn't look super curvy, but the whole thing does.
Yeah.
The other thing that I wanted to mention is I am not endorsing any purchasing of more notions or anything like that. But this was a popular gift, popular thing to buy last year. It's a wool pressing mat. If you happen to have one, this is the project to use it on. These wool pressing mats, like, it's almost like they double the effectiveness of the steam, because the steam goes through the iron in through here into there, and it kind of like radiates back and forth. Yeah. And so it really helps in this kind of situation to get these blocks to lay flat and to get the seams to lay flat. So I don't really think we have any extra words of wisdom beyond that at this point.
Just keep sewing more strips on.
Right. So we're going to go away, and I'm going to sew more strips on.
Do you want to talk all about what you think you might do next, or what, or not?
Well, okay. So I have this first block I did had not a lot of white in it, and this one I think I'm kind of doing the opposite. So my plan now is I have 4 white strips already cut. I still have 3 of coordinating fabric, and I only have 1 more gray one left. And I'm going to put a white on either side, just because I want to see how that looks.
Okay.
But I think I want to make, and at this point, if you want to, you could plan out your whole block. But the nice thing is, if you plan it out and then you goof it up, you can still.
It's not really goofed. It's really not goofed.
Right. But I would just be open to what looks good.
Right.
I may even do something like that and be kind of balanced. We'll see. Definitely.
But it's totally, when you get to the size, stop, because otherwise you're just going to be chopping it off anyway. So.
Right, yeah. So you are watching. I can obviously from this block that I probably need at a minimum these 2 strips and 2 more, if not more.
Yeah, the one I was working on didn't need as many as she has, because mine weren't as narrow.
Yeah, these were very thin. So this one used 11 strips. Shelley will show you hers used like 9 or 10, something like that. It just varies if you do. If you do thicker pieces, there's like less interest, less, I don't want to say interest, less complexity to the block.
Yes.
But that's okay if that's what you want.
Yeah.
All right, so let me sew these, and then we will continue discussing this block. Okay, so here is my block with all the pieces sewn on. And one thing I want to point out, I'm not sure how well this one's showing up. I think it shows up pretty good. But same fabric, different orders, different widths. There's a big difference. Right. This one, I think I said I used 11 pieces. This one
11
was
or 12.
7.
Total 12, I think.
Yeah, 7 pieces. So it still looks great.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. I mean, when I said it's not as much interest, it's still a great looking block, even with only 7 pieces.
Right.
This one has been squared up. This one's been squared up. This one still needs to be squared up. And this one will be a simple one to square up because my edge pieces are wide enough. There's nothing really to worry about. We don't have to show. No, you don't have to show.
Okay.
And I did lay the 12.5-inch ruler on it to make sure that even including some of the dips from the curves that I had plenty, there's plenty here. Now we want to show the block that Shelley was working on, which you guys haven't seen until now. This one is going to be a little bit trickier when we go to square it up because she has some narrower pieces, which you'll see as she lays the ruler on it. If she is not careful, when she does the trimming on the width, obviously you're gonna even off the top and bottom edge. Right. But here, she could go all the way over to here. But then what would happen? Right. She would have a little teeny tiny bit over here. Right. And when you go to sew it to the next block or the sashing, whatever, you basically lose that whole block, a whole strip.
Definitely try to have at least a 1/2 inch, don't you think? At least.
Yeah. You may come down to that.
Yeah.
But especially if you've used a fairly narrow strip on the end.
Right.
But and actually, you know, in general, we want these to be, you know,
Vertical
strips that are, they're not parallel, but roughly, you know,
right.
One direction. But, you know, you have some choices. When you put this square up on here,
That's true.
you can still go wonky. It doesn't, it's, you know, it's curvy, but it doesn't have to be perfectly
Right.
straight.
And sometimes when you sew them, it starts getting wonky anyway. So yeah.
Yeah, actually, when I was sewing these strips on, at the end of each one, I kind of looked.
Yeah.
Mine actually lined up pretty good. I think I almost did better on this than I do when I'm sewing straight pieces.
I think a lot of it depends upon the curve when you start. If it's very curvy when you start, then it starts to get wonky.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you end up starting having one that's a lot longer. Now this was just because it was a scrap piece, so
Right.
it was longer. But watch where you're placing the next block so you're not kind of going off on a sideways
Yeah,
thing.
totally try to watch that.
But so she's gonna be careful how she cuts this to make sure she doesn't lose too much.
Hopefully it'll
there.
work.
I mean, to be honest, if you orient more towards the white, your blue will kind of take care of itself.
Oh, you're right. Okay.
It's going the other way that you have trouble. So,
yeah. Okay.
so we're going to square these up and show you the final blocks.
Right.
Okay, so here's our finished blocks. Just to be contrary, I turned mine sideways. Shelly's like, what? It's sideways. I'm like, yeah, but I want to show people when you're assembling the quilt that you make, because you make 20 of these blocks, because you see how fast you can whip them out.
Well, this one you could, really.
Yeah, especially if you're cutting all kinds of, especially if you took, say you have fabric, not fat quarters. Fat quarters work, but if you had just
2.5-inch strips?
and you just cut off strips and then cut them to length.
A jelly roll or something, even? But
you could use a jelly roll.
But
I mean,
it's, yeah.
Yeah, you could. You definitely, if you have leftover pieces of a jelly roll from you've made a quilt from, that'd be great use of that.
Yeah.
Man, Shelly, you have great ideas. And you forgot to take your glasses off.
Oh,
you can't do it now. Oh,
yes, I can.
You did.
Sorry, I do need glasses up close.
I have laser vision.
Okay, that laser's got you.
It does. Okay. Anyway, so here's our final block. Please make a bunch. We thought it was very easy. We deliberately picked some easy blocks to give you guys some vacation time, but no excuse to not do your blocks.
Then we might do a hard one next time. We don't know yet.
Yeah, because we don't have too many easy ones left, and we try to leave an easy one for that very end of the year.
But we actually don't want to say hard because, in our opinion, not any of them are really hard.
No, this year they're not. No,
yeah.
I think last year we really exercised your triangles a lot.
That's true.
This year, not so many.
Right.
Although I think we have one coming up.
Maybe.
Oh, we have one that's kind of like a pineapple block coming up.
No, a different version of a pineapple because we've already done one, right? Oh no.
No, we haven't done that.
Oh, that's right. We didn't do the triangle. Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
we didn't
that's
do that
when
one.
I can't wait to do that one. Shelley's already made her block, and I haven't done it.
Forgot. Yeah.
Anyway, so we'll be doing that one soon. We do plan to leave an easy block for the very end of the year because at the holidays,
Christmas,
no one wants
we know
to
you're
make
not
that
going to be sewing.
We are, because we have to plan the whole next year. The block of the month. That's what we do in November and December.
That's true.
Frantically planning.
Yeah.
No, we have it all planned out ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. We're lucky we get these done on time. All right, so here we go. This is the end of our July block, our ocean block. Don't forget, get these quilts done from last year so you can show them in the quilt show.
I know. We haven't, but maybe eventually.
Yeah. Well, now we're getting more settled. I keep saying that. Have I done much sewing since last month?
No.
But we're getting there. We are getting there.
We are actually in our sewing room doing this, so that's an improvement.
No, last month we were too.
I know,
but it's much more settled. It is much more settled.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
So the weather's warmed up a little bit. We're not
freezing.
dying. We're not freezing like last time. I know. I looked at last month's video. I was laughing when I said it's like December and it's 60 out, and probably
I'm sorry.
other people are laughing at us. But
it was only 60 in the house too.
Yeah, because we have construction workers here doing some work. They kept leaving the doors open. So
Anyway,
back to the block of the month. Sorry I'm rambling. Make blocks, make a lot of them, and we will see you next month.